let's move on to one thing that's happening kind of on the administrative side from the administration. That is the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. And you say one of the budget gimmicks is DOGE's fake savings. How's that playing out?
So is spending cut theater. It's not real. And that's because 75% of all federal spending goes to six items: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, defense, veterans, and interest that DOGE not only isn't touching because President Trump doesn't want to, but they can't legally cut that spending without a law passed by Congress. So instead, they're looking at these culture war totems that don't save much money: DEI contracts, Politico subscriptions, federal employees, foreign aid, that cause maximum chaos. But at this point, they've only saved $2 billion, which is 1/35th of 1% of federal spending. They may claim they've saved 150 billion, but only 2 billion has been verified. Moreover, the cuts to the IRS are going to cut tax enforcement so much that tax revenues are going to decline, and DOGE is actually going to likely end up increasing deficits. So in that way, DOGE is public relations. It's kind of like the spending caps we talked about before. It's public relations to make it look like you're doing something about the deficit when you're not.
Yeah, people would look at it and say, "Wow, there's a lot going on there." They really, and to see all the federal workers that have been laid off, and that may end up costing money too, because if you don't, you may have some cases where people will be able to sue the government for wrongful, wrongful laying off or firing or whatever. So, we'll have to see how that stuff plays out in court. Um, and yeah, like on the mandatory spending side, there's a lot of talk about all the waste and fraud that's happening, but fraud is something you have to prove. And I'm not seeing any of that. So I mean, there are a lot of claims about, we've found billions and billions of fraud, but I'm a lawyer. It seems to me that if you can't go to court and prove fraud, you don't you haven't done anything.
Exactly. There has been no indictments yet.
Yeah, that's right.
If there's been fraud, and so again, I think DOGE's government spending cut theater. It's maximum chaos with little to no to negative deficit reduction.
And we should say, I mean, the tragedy of that is that there is a good case to be made. There's an excellent case to be made for cutting waste and fraud and abuse, whatever that is. That's a little bit of a subjective term, but GAO has been putting out, the Government Accountability Office has been putting out studies for years on duplicative programs. And so, I mean, all in the budget, the cutting world and the deficit hawk world, I'm all for that. Glad that somebody wants to do it. And fraud is always something. And there's a lot of fraud in Medicare. Medicare has a lot of fraud. There's a lot of waste in the Defense Department. So it's a worthy effort, but the way it's been going about it, as you say, it's more like deficit theater, like a reality TV show, you might even say.
Yeah,
Uh,
exactly. There's I mean, there's $190 billion a year in payment errors. Let's get on
yeah.
that.